Amelia Jones clutched her resume with trembling fingers, her heart pounding as the elevator climbed to the top floor of Vertex Industries' gleaming headquarters. 6 months of unemployment had left her desperate enough to apply for an executive assistant position that had chewed through 5 applicants in the past year. The notorious CEO, Maxwell Vance, had a reputation that preceded him: brilliant, demanding, and coldly efficient. But Amelia needed this job, and she had always been good at staying calm in a storm. The elevator doors slid open to reveal a pristine reception area where a harried-looking woman glanced up from behind a sleek desk. "Amelia Jones? You're precisely on time. Mr. Vance appreciates punctuality." The woman stood, smoothing her pencil skirt. "I'm Sarah, head of HR. Follow me." As they walked through the open office space, Amelia noticed how everyone seemed to be moving with purpose, speaking in hushed tones. The atmosphere was charged with a strange tension. "Mr. Vance's last assistant quit without notice 2 weeks ago," Sarah explained in a low voice. "He's been difficult since then." Before Amelia could ask what difficult meant, Sarah stopped at a glass door that revealed a spacious corner office. Through the transparency, she could see a tall man standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to them, phone pressed to his ear. "Wait here until he signals you," Sarah advised, then retreated swiftly. Amelia watched as Maxwell Vance paced, his voice inaudible through the soundproofed glass, but his body language speaking volumes. His dark hair was immaculately styled, his charcoal suit tailored to perfection on his athletic frame. When he turned, Amelia caught sight of his profile's strong jawline, straight nose, intense concentration in his expression. When he finally noticed her, he gestured sharply for her to enter. "I don't care what their contract stipulates," he was saying as Amelia slipped into the office. "Find a way to make it work or find a new job." He ended the call without saying goodbye. His steel blue eyes landed on Amelia with laser-like focus. "Ms. Jones." "Yes, sir." "Amelia Jones. You're interviewing for the executive assistant position. Let's not waste time. I've read your resume. 6 years as an assistant at Morgan Stanley, 2 years at Goldman Sachs, excellent references." He waved dismissively. "Why did you leave your last position?" Amelia maintained eye contact despite his intimidating presence. "Restructuring. My department was eliminated. And you've been unemployed for 6 months. Why?" "I was selective about my next position, Mr. Vance. I wanted to ensure it would be the right fit." His eyebrow arched slightly. "And you believe Vertex Industries is that fit?" "I believe I can be an asset to your company and to you specifically, Mr. Vance. I understand the role of an executive assistant goes beyond administrative duties. It's about anticipating needs, managing time efficiently, and creating space for you to focus on what matters most." Maxwell studied her for a moment, then reached for a folder on his desk. "Your references call you unflappable and a port in a storm. Is that accurate?" Amelia allowed a small smile. "I've been told I handle pressure well. This job is pressure, Ms. Jones. I need someone who doesn't crack when things get difficult. I need competence, discretion, and someone who won't run out crying because I didn't say good morning. I assure you, Mr. Vance, I'm not easily rattled." He flipped through her resume once more, then checked his watch. "You start tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. sharp. Sarah will handle the paperwork and show you your desk. Dress professionally, bring a notebook, and come prepared to hit the ground running. We'll try a 2-week probationary period." Amelia blinked, surprised at the abrupt decision. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Vance. Don't thank me yet." His gaze was direct, almost challenging. "Prove you can do the job. That's all that matters." As Amelia was escorted out by Sarah, she caught whispers from nearby cubicles. "That's the new one. Poor thing has no idea what she's in for." $5 says she doesn't last the month. Amelia lifted her chin and pretended not to hear. She needed this job, and she was determined to excel at it no matter how difficult Maxwell Vance might be. The next morning, Amelia arrived at 7:15 a.m., giving herself time to set up her desk and review the company's intranet. By the time Maxwell strode in at 7:28, she had prepared a folder with his schedule, printed the morning's relevant news articles, and had coffee waiting black, no sugar, as Sarah had advised. "Good morning, Mr. Vance," she said, rising from her desk position just outside his office. "Your 8 a.m. conference call has been pushed to 8:15. I've updated your calendar. The quarterly reports are on your desk, and I've highlighted the discrepancies in the Asian market figures." Maxwell paused, his hand on his office door. He turned slowly, studying her with a slight furrow in his brow. "How did you know about the discrepancies?" "I noticed them when reviewing the previous assistant's notes. I took the liberty of cross-checking with the original data." A flicker of something surprise, perhaps, crossed his face before his expression returned to its usual impassivity. "Bring your notebook. I need to dictate responses to yesterday's emails." For the next 3 hours, Amelia moved seamlessly between taking notes, placing calls, and anticipating Maxwell's needs. She watched him carefully, observing how he operated his preferences, his rhythms, the slight tells that indicated his mood was shifting. By the end of her first week, Amelia had established a routine. She arrived early, stayed late, and maintained a calm demeanor regardless of the chaos around her. Maxwell was exactly as rumored demanding, exacting, and sometimes cutting in his criticism. But Amelia noticed something others seemed to miss. Beneath his cold exterior was a man consumed by his work, driven by standards few could meet, including himself. On Friday evening, as the office emptied for the weekend, Amelia was finalizing Monday's schedule when Maxwell emerged from his office, briefcase in hand. "You're still here," he observed. "Just finishing up, Mr. Vance. I wanted to ensure everything is in order for your Monday morning meeting with the board." He hesitated, something unusual for him. "You've survived a week. That's longer than the last candidate." "I appreciate the vote of confidence," Amelia replied with a small smile. It wasn't a compliment, merely an observation, but there was less edge to his tone than usual. "Go home, Ms. Jones. The work will be waiting on Monday." As the elevator doors closed behind him, Amelia exhaled slowly. 1 week down, hopefully many more to go. Over the next month, Amelia became indispensable to Maxwell's operation. She learned to read his moods, anticipate his needs, and gently redirect his focus when he became fixated on minor details. Her calm presence seemed to have a subtle effect on the office atmosphere. People spoke more freely, smiled more often, even as Maxwell maintained his demanding standards. One Wednesday morning, Amelia arrived to find Maxwell already in his office, which was unusual. Through the glass, she could see him pacing, his tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. She knocked softly and entered. "Mr. Vance? Is everything all right?" He looked up, and for a moment his carefully constructed facade cracked. "The Singapore deal is falling apart. Lee wants to back out." Amelia set down her things and approached his desk. "What can I do?" "Nothing. He ran a hand through his hair. "Lee's daughter is getting married this weekend. He's using it as an excuse to delay signing until next quarter, which gives our competitors time to undercut us. Have you considered attending the wedding?" Maxwell stared at her. "What?" "In many Asian cultures, business is personal. Your presence would show respect for his family, which might help smooth negotiations." "I don't do weddings." "With all due respect, Mr. Vance, you do what's necessary for Vertex. The Singapore expansion is projected to increase revenue by 30% next fiscal year." Maxwell studied her, then checked his watch. It would take at least 16 hours to fly there. I can have us on a private jet by noon, with all necessary documents prepared for you to review during the flight. We'll arrive Friday morning local time, allowing you to rest before the evening ceremony. You'll need an assistant to manage logistics, translation, and to brief you on cultural expectations. Unless you'd prefer someone else accompany you. Maxwell's expression shifted, something unreadable passing through his eyes. No. Make the arrangements. By midday they were airborne. Maxwell spent the first few hours working silently, while Amelia coordinated with local contacts and prepared briefing materials on Singapore customs and wedding etiquette. As night fell and they crossed time zones, Amelia dimmed the cabin lights. You should try to sleep, Mr. Vance. It'll help with the jet lag. Sleep doesn't come easily to me, he admitted, loosening his tie. Amelia handed him a glass of water. May I ask you something? He looked surprised but nodded. Why did you hire me? Sarah mentioned 5 assistants before me this year alone. Maxwell considered her question. You weren't intimidated by me. The others tried too hard to please, which made them ineffective. You focus on solutions, not on whether I approve of you. And do you? Approve of me? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You're still employed, aren't you? The wedding was an elaborate affair held at one of Singapore's most prestigious hotels. Maxwell, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, moved through the crowd with practiced ease, though Amelia noticed the subtle tension in his shoulders. She stayed close, occasionally whispering context about guests or cultural nuances. Mr. Lee seemed genuinely surprised and pleased by Maxwell's presence. Mr. Vance, you honor my family by traveling so far. I wouldn't miss such an important day for your family, Maxwell replied smoothly. Your daughter looks radiant. As the evening progressed, Amelia watched Maxwell navigate conversations with surprising adeptness. During a moment of quiet, he appeared at her side with 2 champagne glasses. You look uncomfortable, he observed, handing her one. Amelia accepted the glass, surprised by his attention. I'm fine. Just focusing on making sure everything goes smoothly. You're allowed to enjoy yourself, Ms. Jones. The deal is progressing well. She took a sip of champagne. I'm glad to hear it. Lee has invited us to a private tea ceremony tomorrow morning. Apparently, I have you to thank for suggesting this trip. I merely offered an observation. Maxwell's gaze lingered on her face. You do that often. Observe, then solve problems before I realize they exist. The soft lighting caught the angles of his face, softening his usually sharp features. For a moment, he wasn't her intimidating boss, but simply a man intelligent, driven, and unexpectedly vulnerable. That's my job, Mr. Vance. Maxwell, he said quietly. When we're not in the office, you can call me Maxwell. The next morning's tea ceremony was intimate and traditional. Afterward, Mr. Lee invited them to walk in the botanical gardens. As they strolled among exotic flowers, Lee pulled Maxwell aside for a private conversation. When they returned, Maxwell's expression was uncharacteristically light. The deal is secured, he told Amelia. We sign tomorrow morning. That evening, they dined at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. Maxwell ordered a bottle of expensive wine and raised his glass. To successful negotiations, he said. And to your impressive handling of them, Amelia added. He studied her over the rim of his glass. This trip was your idea. You saw a solution I didn't. That's why you have an assistant. Is that all you are? An assistant. The question hung between them, charged with something neither was prepared to name. Amelia felt a flush creep into her cheeks. What else would I be? Maxwell set down his glass. Someone who sees me differently than others do. The flight home was quieter, a subtle shift in their dynamic making the air feel charged. Maxwell spent less time working and more time in conversation with Amelia about books, travel, even childhood memories. It was as if crossing the ocean had allowed them to step outside their usual roles. Back in New York, however, the office routine resumed. Maxwell was again the demanding CEO, and Amelia his efficient assistant. But small changes persisted: coffee shared during early morning reviews, occasional lunches in his office when deadlines loomed, the way his eyes would seek her out during meetings. 3 months into her employment, Amelia was organizing files late one evening when Maxwell emerged from his office. "Still here?" he asked. His tie loosened after a day of intense negotiations. "Just finishing up," she replied. The Peterson proposal needed revisions before tomorrow's meeting. He leaned against the doorframe. "You work too hard," says the man who hasn't left before 9 in weeks. A smile tugged at his lips. "Fair point. Have you eaten?" The question caught her off guard. "No, not yet. Neither have I." "Join me for dinner?" Amelia hesitated, aware of crossing an invisible line. "Is that appropriate?" "It's just dinner, Amelia." It was the first time he'd used her first name. Two colleagues refueling after a long day. They ended up at a small Italian restaurant a few blocks from the office. Away from Vertex, Maxwell seemed different, more relaxed, more present. He asked questions about her life, listened intently to her answers, and shared stories from his early career. "You're not what I expected," Amelia admitted over dessert. "What did you expect?" "Someone colder, more mechanical." Maxwell's expression turned thoughtful. "People see what I allow them to see. It's easier to lead when emotions don't cloud judgment." "But you feel them. Emotions." His eyes met hers. "More than I care to admit." The dinner became the first of many outside the office. Always under the guise of work discussions, always professional on the surface. But beneath that veneer, something was growing, a connection neither had anticipated. In the office, they maintained their professional roles, though Amelia began to notice how Maxwell's demeanor had softened around her. His criticism was less cutting, his praise more frequent. Staff began to notice the change, whispering about the Amelia effect on their temperamental CEO. 6 months into her tenure, disaster struck. A major client pulled out of negotiations at the last minute, leaving a significant hole in Vertex's projected quarterly earnings. The office was in chaos, with department heads scrambling to mitigate the damage. Amelia found Maxwell in his office after everyone else had gone home, staring out at the city lights. "I've ordered dinner," she said quietly. "You need to eat." He didn't turn around. "Not hungry. You need your strength. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. Tomorrow we face the board and explain how we lost Westridge after 6 months of negotiations." Amelia approached him, standing close enough that he finally turned to look at her. "Then we face them together. I've prepared a detailed analysis of alternative clients who could fill the gap. It won't replace Westridge completely, but it shows a path forward." Maxwell studied her face. "Why do you do this, Amelia? Why work so hard for a company that isn't yours? For a boss who demands so much?" "Because I believe in what we're building. Because She hesitated, then continued more softly, "Because I care." Something shifted in his expression. Without warning, he reached out, his hand gently cupping her face. Amelia froze, her heart pounding. "You've changed everything," he whispered. "My company, my office, me." Before she could respond, he dropped his hand and stepped back. "I'm sorry. That was inappropriate." "Maxwell, go home, Amelia. Please." She left, confused and hurt, wondering if she'd imagined the connection between them. The next morning, Amelia arrived early, determined to maintain professionalism despite the previous night's tension. But Maxwell's office remained empty until minutes before the board meeting. When he finally appeared, he was perfectly composed, as if nothing had happened. "The presentation is ready," she said, handing him a folder. "The board is assembled in the conference room." "Thank you, Ms. Jones." The formality stung. The board meeting was brutal. Questions flew like arrows, each aimed at Maxwell's leadership. Throughout it all, he remained calm, accepting responsibility while outlining their recovery strategy, much of which came from Amelia's late-night work. When it was over, the damage was contained. The board, though unhappy, expressed confidence in Maxwell's ability to right the ship. Back in his office, Maxwell loosened his tie with a heavy sigh. "That could have been worse." "You handled it well," Amelia offered. "Because of your preparation." He looked at her directly for the first time that day. "We need to talk about last night." Amelia's stomach tightened. "If you're concerned about my professionalism, I'm concerned about mine," he interrupted. "I crossed a line." "Did you?" she asked quietly. Maxwell's expression softened. "Amelia, you work for me. There are power dynamics I can't ignore." "I understand." "Do you?" "Because I'm not sure I do." He ran a hand through his hair. "You've become essential to me, to the company. I can't risk losing that." "Is that all you're afraid of losing? A good assistant?" The question hung between them. Maxwell took a step toward her, then stopped, conflict clear in his expression. "No," he admitted. "That's not all." 2 weeks later, Amelia was offered a promotion. Senior Operations Manager, a significant step up from executive assistant, reporting to the COO rather than directly to Maxwell. "You deserve this," Maxwell told her when he presented the offer. "Your work during the Westridge crisis showed everyone what I already knew. You're capable of much more than managing my schedule." Amelia studied the offer letter. "This feels like you're pushing me away. I'm giving you an opportunity to advance, to be seen as more than just my assistant. Is that what this is really about? Or is it because of what's happening between us?" Maxwell's jaw tightened. "Nothing is happening between us. Nothing can. Because you're my boss." "Yes. And if I take this promotion? If I'm no longer your direct report?" Something flared in his eyes, hope, perhaps before he controlled his expression. "That would be different." Amelia took the promotion. Her new role challenged her in ways she hadn't anticipated, drawing on skills she developed working closely with Maxwell while pushing her to grow in new directions. They saw each other less frequently now, passing in hallways, occasionally attending the same meetings, nodding professionally when their paths crossed. But the distance did nothing to diminish what had grown between them. If anything, it clarified it. 3 months into her new position, Amelia was working late when a knock sounded at her office door. She looked up to find Maxwell standing there, something different in his expression. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. "Of course." He closed the door behind him. "I've been thinking about what you said, about pushing you away. That was months ago. I think about it every day." Maxwell moved closer, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something more vulnerable. "You've been excelling in your new role. Everyone's impressed. But not you." "I'm beyond impressed, Amelia. I'm proud. And I miss you." Her heart stuttered. "You miss having an efficient assistant." "No." He took another step toward her. "I miss you. You're calm in the midst of chaos. The way you see solutions no one else does. How you understand me without my having to explain." Amelia stood, her desk between them. "Maxwell, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that for the first time in my life, my carefully controlled world feels empty without someone in it. Without you in it." He circled the desk until they stood face to face. "You're no longer my assistant. You're a department head now, on track for executive leadership. There's nothing inappropriate about me asking you to dinner." You're still the CEO. And you're still the only person who's never been intimidated by that fact. His hand reached for hers. Have dinner with me, Amelia. Not as colleagues discussing work. As two people who can't stop thinking about each other. Their first real date was nothing like their working dinners. Maxwell took her to a small jazz club where they were unlikely to encounter colleagues. A place where he could be simply Maxwell instead of CEO Vance. He wore jeans instead of a suit, his hand warm against the small of her back as they found their table. I've never seen you like this, Amelia observed, taking in his relaxed posture. The way his smile came more easily. Few people have, he admitted. It's easier to keep people at a distance. Why did you let me get close? His eyes, warm in the dim lighting, held hers. I didn't have a choice. You didn't give me one. That doesn't sound like me. I'm not exactly forceful. No, you're steady. Unshakable. His fingers brushed hers across the table. You walked into my life with this quiet certainty. This calm that somehow cut through all my defenses. Before I realized what was happening, you'd become essential. As weeks turned into months, their relationship deepened. They were careful at work, professional, appropriate. Their private life kept separate from Vertex's operations. But outside the office, Maxwell revealed himself to be passionate, attentive, and surprisingly vulnerable. I've never felt this way before, he confessed one night as they lay tangled together in his bed, the city lights twinkling through his penthouse windows. Like I can be myself without constantly monitoring every reaction, every word. Amelia traced the line of his jaw with her finger. Is that why you were so controlled at work? So no one would see the real you. The real me was shaped by failure, he said quietly. My father's company collapsed when I was 19. He lost everything because he trusted the wrong people, made decisions based on loyalty rather than logic. I swore I'd never make the same mistakes. So you built walls, fortresses. He pulled her closer, until you somehow slipped through every defense. A year after Amelia had first stepped into Maxwell's office, Vertex Industries celebrated its most successful quarter to date. The Singapore expansion was exceeding projections, and the company's stock had reached an all-time high. At the executive celebration, Maxwell stood to give a speech, his gaze finding Amelia's in the crowd. Success like this doesn't come from one person's vision, he said, surprising those who knew his usual reluctance to share credit. It comes from building the right team, from recognizing that strength often lies in qualities different from our own. Later that night, as they walked along the Hudson River, Maxwell seemed uncharacteristically nervous. What's on your mind? Amelia asked. You've been distracted all evening. He stopped, turning to face her. I've been thinking about balance. Balance. For years, I believed success meant control over my company, my emotions, my life. Then you came along with your quiet strength, your unshakable calm, and showed me there's another way. He took her hands in his. You didn't try to tear down my walls. You simply showed me it was safe to open the door. Maxwell reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Amelia's breath caught. I never expected to find someone who would accept me, all of me, the way you do, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. You've changed my world, Amelia Jones, by simply being yourself, and I can't imagine my life without you in it. He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Tears filled Amelia's eyes as she nodded. Yes. As Maxwell slipped the ring onto her finger, she couldn't help but laugh softly. What? He asked, smiling at her joy. I was just thinking about my first day, how everyone bet I wouldn't last a month as your assistant. Maxwell pulled her close. And now, Amelia wrapped her arms around his neck, her calm certainty as present as it had been from the beginning. Now I plan to last a lifetime. 2 years later, as they welcomed their first child, a daughter, with her father's intense blue eyes and her mother's serene temperament, Maxwell marveled at how completely his life had transformed. "She has your calm," he whispered to Amelia as they watched their newborn sleep. Amelia smiled, leaning into his embrace. "And your determination. Look how focused she is, even in sleep." "The perfect balance," Maxwell agreed, pressing a kiss to his wife's temple. "Just like us." From executive assistant to life partner, Amelia had indeed unraveled Maxwell's controlled world, not by dismantling it, but by showing him that true strength came from connection, not isolation. And in that unraveling, they had both found exactly what they needed: